welcome to another one of my reviews. Today I'm gonna review Stefan Feld's Bruges. The game was published last year, 2013. It's distributed in the US by Zeman Games, and I think it's a very interesting one. In the game you are potentates in the city of Bruges in the 16th century, and you're trying to do all kind of stuff to gain prestige. You build statues, you dig canals, you build houses, you hire craftsmen, you do all kind of crazy things to the aim of getting victory points. At the end of the game, surprise, whoever has the most wins. The game has some original takes on new mechanisms. That is, there are mechanisms that were used in other games, but I think this one refreshes it, makes it simpler, and I have a very good opinion of the game. I will say that up front. So let's have a fast and quick look at what the game is about in terms of how it works, and then we'll come back to see what do I think about the game as a whole. This beautiful board is quite functional, but surprisingly enough, most of the things that you will do will be off the board. On the board you only use certain spots. The canal tracks around here, each player will be building on canals, as we will see. The scoring track that runs all around the board here, and of course is used to score points. Here you will have statues with points that are to be collected by whoever finishes his canal first. Finally, you have space for dice, we will see what to use them for, and what is called the reputation track, on which your big meeple will move up steps. Everything else happens off board, because the core of this game is not the board, is not the pieces, but is in the cards. Cards come with different backs, different only in color, and individual fronts with people. And as you can see, the left part of the card is something that is common to many games. It has a cost, here the big coin, a value in victory points, and an ability, and a category. And as in many games, the category is a trait that can be referred to by other cards. What makes Bruges really interesting is this right hand side. These are all the actions that you can take with your cards, and you will play 4 cards each turn. You can get 2 workers of the color of the card, so you will get these mini meeples that are not in your color, they come in the 5 different colors of cards, and you will use them if you want to take other actions. Or you can take money equal to the number showing on that color of dice. You will always roll 5 dice, so let's say we have this situation. It is clear that if you have a purple, you won't want to get money, while if you have a blue, you really want to get money. And red as well, you won't use a card for money in that case. You can get rid of a threat, I will get to that in a second, or you can build a canal. Remember, there is a canal track on the board. You discard a card of that color, you pay the cost, and you build a canal. Finally, you can build a house. You do that by discarding the little meeple that I mentioned before. You place that card face down in front of you, and now you can use some other cards for its ability and cost and victory points. So you keep doing this, you get more money, you get more workers, and you start having a line of workers in a house in front of you. The big meat of the game is in what these people do. There are 165 cards, and most of them have unique abilities. Actually, all of them are different from any other, but some of them have very, very similar, virtually identical abilities. So you play cards to get money, building canals, getting points. You can go up the track every turn depending on a certain amount of money that is variable and depending on the dice. But the other thing you have to worry for, at the beginning of each round, these dice will be rolled. And for every 5 or 6 that is showing, you will be collecting threat tokens of the same color. Like this is yellow, this is red, etc. When you have 3 of the same color, something very bad happens. With yellow, you lose all your money. With red, you destroy a house or one of your canals. With blue, you lose all of your little workers. With brown, you lose a character, and with purple, you lose straight up victory points. And so, going back to when we were seeing the card, one of the things you can do is get rid of one of those. It gives you only 1 meager point, that is generally less than what you can do with a person or with a card, but it saves you from bad stuff happening. You repeat this until the cards run out, basically, and that's the game. So as usual, my aim is not to teach how to play the game, but in this particular case, I went through almost all of the rules. Yeah, some details were left out, but the game is that simple. You play one card, you choose one of the effects, or if you have a house, you can play the guy as a craftsman, hiring him for his special ability and not just for one of the action connected to his color. This may seem very simple, and this is actually one thing that is good about Bruges compared to other games by Feld like Castle of Burgundy or Macau. This is immediately self-evident. You have few options and you can take one of those options, and those options are the same for every character. Where the more complicated aspect of the game comes into play is in the ability on the front of the cards. As probably anyone who has played a game with variable powers on the cards knows, combination of cards, situational use, the difference between one shot and ongoing powers, passive or activatable powers, all this kind of stuff can make a simple interaction of rules far more complex. And this is certainly the case in Bruges. I would still consider it a simple game, but it's not as simple as it would be if the cards didn't have their special abilities. And I really like that added layer of difficulty. Basically, in this game, not every game you play, but while your experience improves and you become more expert in the game, you will go through a certain number of layers. The first thing you do is just understand that everything you do will give you points, but not all the points will be the same. And so in the first game or so, or especially if you are a new gamer, you will have to deal with how do I use my cards to just get the most points out of what's in front of me. Then there is another level. One thing that I didn't mention are majorities. Majorities are tokens that can give you points as if at any point during the game you have the majority in something. You can have the majority of canals built, the majority of people hired, the majorities of steps moved on the reputation track. The nice thing is these majorities don't go away, so if you were the one with the most in that category once, you will score those points. And so this is something you have to keep an eye on opponents, so that's the second step. Oh, he's going for canals. Should I try to stop him, or should I let him have the majority in canals and focus on not letting him have the other two majorities? Another level is risk prevention. You can play with the risk and the threats by either discarding them every time you have two of them, because you don't want to get three, so you immediately draw a card and discard a card of that color in order to get rid of that threat. Vice versa, you could decide, okay, I will suffer the consequences and try to play through the consequences, so I don't invest into getting rid of them and just suffer the consequence, but hope that the actions that I gain by not caring for them are enough to make up for it. But while you get more experience, you will want to balance the two. Understand when it's worth to risk. You're never sure that something bad is going to happen. To risk losing something, and when instead you want to use your resources to prevent disasters. Do you really need to keep your money, or can you spend them and risk losing very little amount of coins? Do you really need those 3 points, or you can use that action that will remove 1 purple token and save your 3 points to gain more than 3 points, especially late in the game? Does it make any difference if you do this for one opponent or another? Then another level is being generally aware of what can happen. Know that people can steal money from you, people can steal workers from you, that you will need workers to activate abilities. So the strategies that are not apparent as soon as you play the game can become self-emergent later on in your experience of the game. Finally, a step that, to be fair, I have not reached yet: when you know by heart all the deck, or most of it, you know that certain cards are connected to certain colors, so you could strive to get that particular card that you want. But I think this is very hard to come by. First, because you would need to play a lot to memorize 165 cards, or even the 30 that you consider most important. Usually the ones that cost the most have the most breaking game ability. But even if you could learn them all, you never play with all the cards. You play with 2/5 with 2 players, 3/5 with 3 players, and 4/5 with 4 players. So you never have a guarantee that one specific card that you're striving for will be available to use. About the number of players, if you have watched other of my reviews, and if you have not, you should, you will know that number of players and the right fit for a number of players is one of my pet peeves. And this is what I like about Bruges the most. It plays perfectly with 2, with 3, and with 4. Yes, there are other games that I may prefer to play when I have that number, but there will never be a number of players in which that will force me to say, no, I won't play that with that number. With 4 players, the game is still fast, it's very interactive. Yes, you have to keep track of a little more in terms of majorities and the like, but it's very nice. And it still plays in an hour or so. With 2 players, the game can go down to 35-40 minutes, but still has tension, because the majorities become even more important, because if you don't keep an eye on your opponent, he could score 3 of them while you only score 1 or 2, and for 8 points on a game in which the end score is around 45 to 50 can mean a big deal. Getting first to something is generally important in this game, not only for the majorities, but also because of the canals. If you are the first to get the canals, you get a better statue, a better prestige points than your opponents. I think that this game is more tactical than strategic, for reasons that I have explained already, because you can never choose freely what color of cards you want to draw. You draw from top of the deck, so you know what colors are coming, but you cannot choose freely. So sometimes you really need a blue card. You have built the strategy on a blue worker, so you want the blue cards and you cannot draw one. Some other times you will have only people that don't synergize with each other, and there is nothing you can do about it. This said, the tactical choices are very interesting, because you only have 4 cards a turn. Usually you will need to use one of them for money, one of them for houses, one of them for canals, one of them for people, one to get rid of stuff, and one for their ability, and you are already out of those 4 actions. I mentioned 6 things and you only have 4 actions, and sometimes you need to take one twice. And on top of all that, when you have figured out what you want to do, you forgot to take into consideration that that guy, that opponent of yours, is gonna snatch the majorities if you do nothing about it, and you won the majorities. So the game is simple enough but tense enough to provide a very fun, interesting game. The artwork and the components are nice, nothing special. The board is very nice, the rest is okay. I like it. I really like Michael Menzel artwork, and I really like Stefan Feld's games, and this as the best of the two worlds. It's probably my favorite game published by Feld in 2013, is amongst my favorite Euros published in 2013, and it ranks well even in an overarching ranking of both Feld and Eurogames in general. I have yet to find a player who doesn't like the game. Of course, my experience is anecdotal. I don't know all the players, and I'm sure there will be some naysayers that didn't like the game, and more power to them. But I really believe you won't be disappointed if you try this one. I hope you enjoyed the review. Come back for more, and goodbye by then.